we'll do a little house. We're recording this. This is a recording in progress. So Daniel's going to go through some logistics. Then we're going to go make sure we're dotting I's and crossing T's when it comes to some of the small things that you'll have you'll get to on site for a race. You're like, oh, I thought it was X, but it was really either you used it or whatever it is. So Daniel, did you want to start with logistics and then we go into some pre-race or things and then swimming?
Yeah, absolutely. Give me like 10 seconds, maybe to talk about something else.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. Sorry.
I'm gonna start talking about the crossing T's, dotting I's. All right. So race tires. Now is a great time to get your race tires for the year if you like to get new tires. Also, it's important for you guys to check to see if your spare kit in your still has integrity, whether that is if it has 2 tire levers, the CO2 cartridge, make sure you have the CO2 adapter, and then a fully functioning tire with the right valve and the right valve stem length. So sometimes when you switch to a race wheel setup, there'll be deeper wheels, and the valve that you have, that if you just bought so valves come in kind of 3 different lengths. There'll be like a 32, a 42, a 48, and maybe a 60. So 4 different lengths. Sometimes you can get like an 80. And you want to make sure that the valve length is long enough for your race wheels. And you can always, an extra long valve sticking out of a smaller rim is not a big deal, but a small valve with a really deep rim, that does not work. You cannot reinflate that thing. So why don't you make sure you're checking those ones out. Making sure the brakes are all dialed in, just small specific stuff that when you show up to races, you think everything is dialed, but if you haven't checked it in a year, things tend to degrade a little bit. Or I was out on a ride a couple weeks ago, and I flatted, and I had everything but the CO2. So that was interesting. Luckily, there was a good Samaritan who rode past. He had 2, and he gave me one. I said, hey, if you're going to be riding up and down this hill, I'll be on it for the next 3 hours. I will give you your CO2 back. Or I'll go get a new CO2 for you. He goes, no, I'm just riding. So it's yours. Pass it along. So I thought I replaced it, but I didn't. And now everything is set up. Yeah, some of those small things, making sure you got lube, trying to take care of it so it's not as stressful on race day or race day.
Yeah, my camera's not going to work, so I'm just going to do this from sound today. Real quick question from the peanut gallery was, with your tires, how do you know if they're shot or not?
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
So there's 2 wear patterns on a tire. There's 2 little dimples. They're offset, and they could be anywhere on the wheel, but they're offset and they're about maybe an inch apart. And you'll notice that if it's super smooth, that means there's no real tread left on the tire. And the tread in this case is we're just looking for a thickness for the overall tire, because a thicker tire gives you a little bit more puncture resistance as well as better rolling resistance. As soon as it gets really bald and thin, it becomes more puncture prone, and the rolling resistance is it makes maybe what was a supple tire, meaning it had some give, it turns it into a harder riding experience, and it isn't as enjoyable. So
yeah. And you'll also, sometimes you can see a flat spot on your tire, and once you start seeing a flat spot, it's no good anymore.
Yeah, or it'll get a little hoppy on you. So
exactly.
For me, I would say, I can ride tires depending on the it's not I usually have the same brand, but it's usually like I can get a lot of wear on them, but it's usually about a season. And then you'll notice too. So I rode new tires yesterday, and my cornering was on point yesterday because there was more. I just trusted the tires more.
All right, all right. So for everyone out there, we got a few people racing St. George this weekend. Check our Facebook calendar events so that you guys can link up with each other. If you want to pre-post race, set things up, we can go from there. Then after that, I think we got about 3 or 4 people racing Chattanooga. Look out for that calendar invite too. And then as we get into June, we'll start adding more and more team events based on where Andy and I will be during the year, or we have a bunch of people. Still, we only have about half the people that filled out the team calendar, so it makes it pretty hard to plan, but we can still set things up. So just be on the lookout on Facebook for those invites. Cool. Other logistics, most of you should be receiving your team kits this week or got the shipment notification. So let's go. That's fantastic. Finally, we will set up a gear swap exchange spreadsheet and some other stuff if you guys need that. If you want to swap with other people, sizes don't fit and everything else. Cool. And then last, thank you for everyone who filled out the camp survey. We are doing our best to try and put together a late summer, early fall camp for you guys. It's always difficult when we're trying to do a new place or we're trying to set up something around a new time to get a cumulative mass of people. So thanks for filling that out, because as you guys can imagine, we can't host a camp with 5 people. It doesn't work very well for anyone, including people that are there. The more people, the better. All right, awesome. If any questions come up during this today, just pop it in the chat or raise your hand. Looks like we only got Sam and Derek on video. So hi guys, thanks for that. Everyone else, you can leave your shirts off if you'd like. We can't see you. Cool. Word. All right. So Mr. Potts, today we're supposed to talk about swimming. And we know that a lot of people don't come to triathlon from swimming, and it's new to them. I'm going to start off with a hot button question, and I think it's going to back into everything else. Question number 1, to be a good triathlon swimmer, do you need to train in open water?
So this question is a great question. I do think that you need to develop skills that translate really nicely to open water, but you can practice 100% of the time in a pool and still be a great open water swimmer. A lot of it has to do with your engine, and a little bit has to do with the confidence, right? So you want to build the skill set, but sometimes that confidence can only be had through a direct experience with open water. And when things get tight or argy-bargy, where you get real bumpy, you're not used to that experience. It can be off-putting. So actually, we ran a practice the other day where we took Gatorade jugs and just tied a weight to it and sunk it. So it was in the pool. It wasn't an official buoy, but we worked on just kind of coming around buoys. There are definitely things that you can work on in a pool setting that will help you with your open water swimming. One of the biggest ones is sighting. And what I like to do is, let's say you have a main set. Let's say the main set's, I don't know, 4 200s, 4 100s, 4 50s. Okay. On the last lap of the 200s, 100, and the 50, what I would do is about halfway down, I would look up and try to spot and I would try to guess what my time would be with like 12 meters to go. So like I'm trying to find the clock, read the clock, and use it as a good barometer for me. So I really like that skill development for, practicing your sighting, not getting your body out of alignment, having your heart rate be really high because it's at the last lap of the interval, and trying to, get back into a good body position. If you sight often enough, 5 to 7 strokes, you don't have to take your whole chin out of the water or even your neck or chest. You can just go up to mouth even. Just pop your mouth out. Oh, there it is, bang. And then you'll come up, as the hand's coming around, the eyes will come up, alligator eyes, and then you'll almost initiate the breath. And then you roll over and then you kind of fall back into that rhythm. And that can be a good timing. It's just a little bit earlier for an early breath, and that can really help your skill development for open water swimming. So ultimately, to answer the question, Daniel, no, you do not need to be awesome at and practicing a ton in open water to make sure you're executing well on race day in open water. But there is really no substitute for experience. So if you want that experience, open water swimming can be beneficial.
Yeah, I think, Andy, you hit the nail on the head early on, which is open water swimming is really good for people that need confidence or have apprehension and need the experience doing it. Because it'll only help you. The more you do something, we'll call it exposure therapy. Don't know if that works or not, but it just helps you get more comfortable doing something. And because of that, you'll be more proficient. Otherwise, like Andy said, you could do most of this stuff in the water and in the pool. I think for years, Andy, we only swam open water when we raced, right? In the day before.
Sometimes I would roll in and didn't even get the day before. So it's like, okay, let's go.
Yeah, because normally, and even the day before, a lot of times we swam in the pool when we'd show up.
Yeah.
And then just race day, get in. All right, so let's now go backwards a little bit. Open water and pool swimming is a little bit different, right? What do you see some of the key differences and similarities are? Because swimming has also changed over the years that people should be thinking about.
So let's go with the similarities first. Similarities between the two strokes. One, you really want a high catch. What's a high catch? As soon as your hand enters into the water, you want to have a hot, it wants to be close to the surface of the water. This is the surface. And then you're going to initiate the fingertips down and an elbow up. That initial high catch is really important for setting up the stroke. It's the most important part of the stroke, and that's going to be the same. What makes it a little different or what makes the high catch hard is as your hand enters the water, you have a tendency to relax, maybe even lead with the elbow a little bit. Sorry, I'm gonna stand up on you here. Okay, so as your hand enters the water, sometimes you'll press down with a straight arm, and then you'll initiate a high elbow. But if you start pressing down and you'll get about a foot below the surface of the water, then you initiate the catch. You have missed about a foot of real estate, this whole thing. So what I like to do is I like to have a calm hand, bang, and then right up and on top of it. You take this same position, it looks like a ball. You try to swim on top of that ball. Boom, bang, bang, right on top of that ball. With that ball, open water swimming, this is what separates it, makes it a little bit different. That ball is a circle. In pool swimming, that ball is more of an oval. You have a stronger, steadier kick in pool swimming, and you have your own space. You have your own lane, and that's a really big deal. And you'll hear pool coaches, swim coaches talk about distance per stroke. They want a really long stroke that's long and powerful, taking advantage of the front quadrant or the front third of the stroke, where it's the hand placement nice and high, and finishing all the way in the back. But with open water swimming, you'll want to take advantage of that same up front, go through the catch phase, and then if you need to come back around, you can exit a little early. You don't have to finish all the way past the hip. You don't necessarily need that finger flick at the end. Whereas in pool swimming, you really try to accentuate those details. Also, different that distance per stroke. Pool swimming, you want a good distance per stroke. In open water swimming, you want high tempo. You really, really pushing high tempo. I'd love to have all of our athletes, below 2.0 in their stroke count. And that how you measure that is hand entry to hand entry, or same point on the hand to same point. You can have somebody stand on deck, just kind of measure it for you. So if it's left hand entry, I'll swing it around here. That's 1. So if you're swimming, it'll be start, stop, start, stop, and you get that timing, and that should be faster than 2.0 seconds for your hand to come do a full cycle. If you can get your cadence and your tempo to be under 2, really work on that in when you're at the pool. Have somebody just measure it for you with their phone or stopwatch. Super helpful, and you can kind of ramp it up, slow it down, find the sweet spot for it, and really work that skill development there.
All right, and so just to kind of repeat what you just said, one of the ways to make that ball rounder, get that stroke rate up a bit, is to not finish the stroke, right? Or
Sure.
All right.
Yeah. So if you don't have like the if you feel like you're slipping or you're kind of sinking a little bit, you want to get that hand back around.
All right.
The other thing is the rotation on the stroke. You'll in the open water, we're going to swim a little bit flatter. Okay, we're going to try to swim a little flatter. That's why you'll see wetsuits, the way that they're constructed, specifically the wetsuit that Daniel and I designed, the Pinnacle. We really try to flatten people out, take the best parts of swimming and make it so it's more repeatable for everybody. So we're flattening out the stroke. What does that mean? Okay, so this is me as a swimmer. In a pool, I'll be like kind of like a knifing through the water. So on my side, recovering high, rotating, switching sides, bang. In the open water, I'm a little bit more squared up top, but the hands are coming around. Just there's a little bit fewer impedance on the hands in that stroke cycle to get that under 2.0. And the hips are just a little quicker. So in a pool swimming, you'll have quick hips, but there'll be a delay, and there'll be a quick transfer. Hold, long, transfer. In an open water, it'll be bang, 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 bang. The hips and the hands, the timing are the same. So 3 ways to get your timing and your everything dialed. Feet and hands, so your kick rate will help you with your stroke rate, and your hip rotation rate will help you with your stroke rate. So if you want to think either feet and hips and hands together, going with pistons, bang, 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 and you flatten out the stroke a little bit, that will really help you. What I like to do, and we have a drill that accentuates this, but basically when you're putting your left hand into the water, you want to have a down kick on your right foot. You put your right hand into the water, you'll have a downbeat kick on your left foot. So you can get a little, so it's opposite, so that you stay a little flatter and the hips start rotating just a little bit, but not super deep, just a small little articulation, so you really dial it forward. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so AP, you said a couple things are really good there. I want you to go back to one thing.
Yeah.
Timing, right? So hand timing. We forget the feet for a second, because that's my favorite drill. When your right hand starts to catch, where is your left hand? Because a lot of people leave the front quadrant empty at times, right? And they have nothing to balance on. So can you explain it?
All right. So in the pool, where you'll see side view, the hand will be up front, up high, nicely close to the surface of the water. the recovery hand will be past the head, and this is what you'll look like. Or you'll be like this. You'll start to initiate your catch as the hand passes the head. Okay? In the open water, the hands will start to get further and further away from each other, and they'll almost be like a kayak, 180 degrees apart. Okay? So they'll be, as you start to initiate your catch, the hand won't be coming. Oh, let's go this way. As you start to initiate your catch, your hand will be farther. It won't be here. It'll be here, because the tempo is higher. The hands get farther away from each other. A slower tempo keeps the hands closer, meaning both in front of the face. A faster tempo means the hands are farther away. So the way you think about it is, when the hands get farther away from each other, you have to make sure that your body position is really good and you're not slipping on the water. So every time the hand enters, it's got to be fingertips down, elbow up, as opposed to press down, lose the front quadrant, and then initiate. So the difference is you're here versus, sorry, it'll be here versus here. Okay? So, and less leading with the elbow. You're not doing a lat pull down. You're doing fingertips first, trying to engage your bicep, your pectoral muscle, and your lat. If you just lead with the elbow, you come in, you let it sink down, and then you pull back, you missed out on all this real estate up here. Hand goes in, elbow up, and then you move the body past the hand.
Perfect. Last thing, going back to that drill that Andy mentioned, where he was saying opposite hand, opposite foot. The best way to do this is you put a paddle on your right hand and you put a fin on your left hand. And you make sure they're entering the water at the same time. I'm gonna be predictive for a second. And the first time you do this, you're gonna slap the water with your foot that has the fin, and you're gonna kick from below the knee. It's gonna happen. Eventually you'll smooth it out and you'll have a nice stroke. I promise. All right, we got I'll go in.
So yeah, you did answer AJ's question.
Yeah.
So I think also, AJ, you could be coming in and it could be a lat pull down where you're leading back with the elbow. You got to get the fingertips to come down first, get the shoulder to articulate towards the ear. Here, not this. Where head stays neutral. Okay. And that will help you with engaging your pec, all right, and your bicep. Now, Dave, you got a drafting question in here. So drafting, just think about, I want you to think about like a dolphin behind a boat. Use this imagery, it will really help you. If you have a boat and you have a dolphin, the dolphin will go into the wake onto the side and up. So it's kind of sitting in the wake and it will not even have to kick, right? It will just kind of just use this streamlining ability to stay on board. Fastest place to draft on someone is basically at their like hip or knee, where they're doing a bow break and they're breaking the surface of the water and you're just sitting in their wake. The second fastest place, so you're kind of off to the side, the second fastest is a speedboat configuration. You ever watch NASCAR where they'll be like, shake and bake, where you want to come up onto their bumper or up onto their feet and just sit there, and it disperses you have a greater surface area, so it makes you more streamlined and you can suck into the feet. That's the second best spot. The worst spot is shoulder to shoulder, because there's a little vortex in between you guys and it creates a suck down effect and you end up going slower. So worst, second best is speedboat, best is the dolphin at the knee.
All right. Okay, so I got one. If anyone has any other questions, let me know. Oh, we got a question. Where can we get Andy's hoodie? All right, so I'm going to put Andy's hoodie and also all of our hats because I found a new box of hats up for sale this week, probably actually next week, beginning of next week. And we'll do like a limited time sale, so I don't have to ship one at a time for the next 6 months. And so just be on the lookout. I'll send out an email next week. Also, after this is over, I will also send out a link to 2 full hour long seminars on swimming that you can get more questions answered. And then you can come back to us with even more questions in our group, Facebook, email, text, chat, and we can answer them all. I had one more, Mr. Potts. It has nothing to do with swimming at all. What do you think of, 2 questions actually. First question, who's gonna be on the podium in Ibiza this weekend?
I have no idea.
Okay, cool. Next, speaking of podiums, what do you think of the recent announcement in triathlon with some athlete who I won't name, who apparently was cheating?
Yeah, not apparently, was cheating. I hope he never comes back to the sport, and I would be happy to never mention his name again. Because this is a family show, but screw that guy. Anytime you defraud your sport, your peers, and yourself, you have missed the mark on life, and you suck at life. And I have no tolerance, compassion. I'm sorry, you're out. You're out. And
right.
You suck.
So suck that guy. Screw him.
Yep.
But I do have a follow-up to that.
Okay.
There are ways to hack your body and your life in a safe way and in a fair way. One of which, look at this like lead in I just did, is knowing where you are today so you can figure out where you're gonna go.
Yep.
I know you use a service for this. And we're going to do a whole webinar next week on it with a special guest. What is that? And can you tell me a little bit about it?
Yeah. So we talk about this at camp all the time. It's really hard to know where you want. You can know where you want to go, but if you don't know where you are, it's really hard to plot a map to how to get there. We can see lots of good feedback in our training with data and just kind of progression. But how do we know what's happening on the inside is what should be happening. I actually get my blood tested to make sure that my blood biomarkers are on, and you're starting to hear a lot about this. You'll hear about like gut microbiome and blood biomarkers a lot in just like sport and life performance. Like, are we getting the most out of our lives? Are we getting the most out of what we're putting into our endeavors? You could have low iron and not know. You could have elevated cholesterol and not know. And then how do you change your behaviors to make sure your body is adjusting and making the right adaptations? So I use this program called Insight Tracker. It's a really cool app. And I get my blood tested. And the more I can test my blood, the better. This is the app. The better I can know where I am and know where I want to be and what adjustments I need to make. And these are usually micro adjustments. Like, I know that my B12 was off last time, so I started to eat a few other things that were richer in vitamin B12, and it really perked up my values, and I perked up as a person as well. So we're going to present something next week. Bring Insight Tracker on to give you guys an insight and analysis into your blood work, why it's important, and what markers we should all be looking for as endurance athletes, but also as just an aging group of men and women who are trying to make sure that we hold on to our youth as long as possible.
Yeah, I can tell you guys from a performance perspective, it's made a big difference in stuff we do in training with Andy. But from a life perspective, like a lot of these tests pick up things that your normal blood work with your doctors do not. And so like I have made a bunch of changes because of it, and I'm pretty happy and healthier because of it. And so it's worth looking at. So we're gonna have a webinar next week, not just about this, but about a specific topic too. We might cover women's health or performance in sport with blood work and go from there. So that's all we got. We actually have another webinar to get to right now. So if you have questions or follow-ups, post up in the group or email us. Thank you very much for your time. Sorry I couldn't be on video. I don't know what's wrong with my camera. All right. Peace.